Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos a la charla especial a cargo del señor Mark Bristow, quien es CEO de Barrick Gold. El señor Mark Bristow, para informar, es el CEO de Barrick Gold desde la fusión con Randgold en enero del 2019. Previamente fundó Randgold Resources en 1995. Fue una empresa que con un trabajo pionero en África Occidental, y tuvo un crecimiento muy rápido, exponencial, a través del desarrollo y descubrimiento de activos de clase mundial. Durante su carrera, el señor Bristow ha tenido posiciones a nivel directorio en un número importante de compañías mineras globales, y en su currículum académico, Mr. Bristow cuenta con un doctorado en geología desde la Universidad de KwaZulu-Natal en South Africa. A continuación, le invito a Marcelo Álvarez, director ejecutivo de Barrick para Argentina-Chile, para que presente finalmente a Marcelo. Adelante, por favor.
Muchísimas gracias, Alejandro. Es un gran honor para mí presentar una vez más a nuestro CEO y presidente de Barrick Gold Corporation, Mark Bristow, una vez más frente a todos nuestros stakeholders de San Juan y de Argentina. Como él se comprometió trimestralmente a hacer una presentación de los resultados de la mina Veladero y de sus proyectos y de los proyectos de la compañía en San Juan y Argentina, de cara y de frente a la sociedad, con una nueva forma de relacionamiento, una forma de relacionamiento directa, transparente, desde su cabeza como presidente y CEO de la compañía. Lamentablemente en estos tiempos de pandemia no ha podido viajar todavía a Argentina, pero ya estamos planificando un viaje de él para el mes de diciembre, aunque sin embargo desde los inicios de la pandemia ya tuvimos un town hall online para toda la Argentina en la presentación del primer trimestre de los resultados de Veladero, y hoy también, además de realizar una presentación con relación a la minería de oro a nivel mundial y sus perspectivas a futuro, también se va a referir a los resultados de Veladero, las perspectivas de futuro, el compromiso de Barrick con el país y con San Juan, y también los proyectos de exploración que estamos avanzando para, como él dice, tener la posibilidad de generar un nuevo Veladero para San Juan. Mark, go ahead, all yours, and thank you again to be with us and share your knowledge.
Gracias, Marcelo and Alejandro, and good day to everyone listening in. Today, my objective is to share a little bit about the gold industry globally, the gold market, and then spend some time just talking about Argentina, its potential, and our projects and our commitments and plans for our continued partnership with the Argentinian people and government. Starting out, when you look back in the gold price, it's had a roller coaster ride, certainly since the back end of last century. And it's risen from below $300 an ounce in 1999 to more than $1,900, $1,900 just over a decade later. And then when the bull run eventually collapsed, it soon bounced back to again and touched $2,000 just in recent weeks. And I say this because, when you look back through the industry, and particularly with Argentina and generally the mining industry, we haven't really been prepared to benefit from these rises in the gold price. And it's a reason because most of the mining industry has been focused on short-termism, as often are the host countries. And really what we need to do if we're going to benefit the various stakeholders in the mining industry and our host countries, we need to really work to build stronger partnerships between capital, that's the stewards of capital or the mining management, mining company management, the host country and its governments, and of course the communities and our employees. And so before I go any further, I just point you to the cautionary statement. There are some comments I'm going to make that might not all work out in the future. And if anyone wants to particularly read it, it's also available on the Barrick website. So moving forward then, you know, to be world class, as we say in Barrick, one needs to be global. And this industry needs to be prepared to invest in countries where there are tier one assets. I've always said, you know, asset quality should always override jurisdiction, and we as global world-class miners need to be able to develop our skills to be able to operate in any environment. What's worth pointing out is that Argentina is well positioned and is enormously prospective for world-class gold and copper discoveries. And that is why Barrick and its partner Shandong still look to not only continue operating the mine that we've got, but to hunt for new opportunities in that part of the world, and specifically in Argentina. The gold price is, of course, a very important component of our industry, and this shows you the gold price going back to the 1970s and the various events that drove the gold price higher. And as we've experienced just in the last few months, we're in another phase of high risk, high economic risk, high geopolitical risk globally. And the gold price is also always a measure of the level of global risk, both economically and geopolitically. What's also evident from this graph is that every time we have a spike and the central banks of the developed world print money, the gold price sets a new base, and it's always measured in US dollars. And so in the 2008 great financial crisis, we saw enormous quantitative easing, printing of money, and you see how the gold price peaked to just over $1,900 and then set a new base of between $1,150 and $1,250 an ounce. This recent spike, we don't know how long it's going to be. The last one was sort of 8 years, but what we do know is that the central banks of the major currencies around the world have printed more money in this crisis than collectively in all the other crises. And so clearly we have an opportunity and to anticipate that the gold price will remain high into the future. And so therein lies an opportunity to and a motivation to continue to explore for world-class gold deposits. There's another part of the gold industry that we should be aware of, and that is that as an industry, since 2000, we have not been able to replace the gold that we as an industry have mined. And certainly since 2010, the number of new world-class gold deposits that have been discovering have been in decline, and only a few have been discovered in recent time. And so what happens then is that we've started to see a decline in the global gold reserve. That's the unmined reserve of the major gold companies. And this has started in 2012. The product of that is, with a higher gold price, as you can see in the top right of this slide, is that the industry had to use a higher and higher gold price to be able to calculate its reserves. And as a consequence of that, the reserve grade, that's the quality of our reserves in the gold industry, has been in decline. And that is leading towards what we call peak gold. And that is that all the models show that we should peak the global gold production either this year or next year, and probably more likely next year because of the COVID impact on production this year. And then we are forecasting a decline of as much as between 25 and 30% by the end of this century. This decade. And that is, in addition to the valuation, the destruction of paper money value and the new base for the gold price, we also at risk on the supply side of not being able to supply supply gold as we have certainly for the last 20 years, and an increasing amount of new gold supplied to the market. What we have seen for the first time for many years is that the industry itself has moved to consolidate and refocus on quality. And this is just a summary of some of those transactions. And what, for the first time, the industry has transacted ahead of a rise in the gold price, not as a result of the gold price. And this was started by the Randgold Barrick merger back on the 1st of January 2019. But you can see the considerable number of transactions. And what's important is a large majority of these transactions were done at market. And so for the last 2 years, we've seen the equity, that's the share price of the gold industry, outperform the gold price itself. And that's the first time that has happened for some time now. And so just bringing my sort of introduction based on the gold market and industry, I would just point out that what this industry faces now is a real requirement for future discoveries. And that is, as this graph shows, is the only real way we as miners can create value. You know, mergers and acquisitions and transactions can only create value if there's hidden valuation, undervaluation in the companies, or if the gold prices can grow up, if the gold price increases. But making discoveries, and you know, we saw an announcement of a new gold mine in San Juan province today. Making real discoveries and building new mines really does create value. It creates value not only for the shareholders, the owners of the mining companies, but it creates value for the host countries as well. So with that, let's move across to a more specific Argentina focus. and we go to Veladero. Veladero recently celebrated its 15th anniversary since it poured its first gold. And this mine is a world-class operation. And it is over its life today, as I'll demonstrate to you, made a significant contribution to San Juan province, the local communities around the mine, and the Argentinian country, state as well. When Barrick merged with Randgold at the beginning of 2019, and I assumed the responsibility to lead the new company, Veladero was a marginal operation with a limited life remaining. A redesign and overhaul of the mine was required, and to improve efficiencies and take it into the future. We empowered the regional management and operational teams and invested time and resources in understanding the geological potential of the ore bodies. And more importantly, we reached out to the government of San Juan and the national government to reintroduce ourselves and recommit ourselves to be able to operate in Argentina in a responsible mining fashion. And this resulted in a mine life extension very quickly of beyond 2013 that we announced at the beginning of this year, that's 2020. And we continue to look at opportunities to extend the life of this mine. Veladero has provided and provides an example of the potential mining has to boost the economy of a country and a province. Especially, we've seen the benefits of this mine during this COVID-19 crisis. And we are confident if we continue to build those relationships amongst the various stakeholders and the mine, that we will be able to contribute to the recovery of the both regional and national economy. We continue to look at ways to extend the mine's life, and recently we have delineated opportunities to extend the current pit. And we have significant opportunities to develop satellite deposits, which too would add to this mine's life. During the time that this mine's been around, the last 15 or so years, the mine has contributed some $9.5 billion to the Argentinian economy in the form of taxes, salaries, and purchases. And there's no doubt that mining stimulates the economy by generating exports and foreign exchange. And over the next 13 years, we're expecting to generate $5 billion of new economic growth in the form of wages, taxes, and of course purchases. The other thing that Barrick really holds dear is we recognize the stakeholders in our business, not only to be our shareholders, but also our host countries, and more importantly, the governments of those countries who are stewards of the national assets, our communities around our mine, and most importantly, our employees. In addition, as I pointed out, we are planning to expand Veladero. We've got a number of key projects that we are committing to, and through that, we will also be reinvesting new dollars into Chile, amounting to some $200 million. And in addition, projects bring with them a future direct investment, and we've got additional projects planned for Veladero over its life that will add an additional $400 million of investments. These projects also bring employment, and currently we have 3,300 people employed on the civil construction projects, which will increase to more than 4,000 people by the end of October. In addition, together with our communities and the government, almost all of these employees are national workers, totaling some 99.5% of our employees, and a record 93.5% from the San Juan province itself. With the extended life of mine and future opportunities to extend further, we expect Veladero will continue to be a significant contributor to sustaining quality jobs for the entire region. With an emphasis on dialogue, we are promoting the definition of participatory projects decided by the community development. And one thing Barrick looks to do is create community development committees, which have a significant say in how we spend our community budget. And as you can see in this slide, today we have 4 pillars of that initiative, that community investment initiative. First of all, it's about forestry, and we have a big forestry plan to reforest the area. We look at water is a particularly valuable commodity, as you'll all appreciate, being Argentinian, and so again, many of our projects include water security for our communities. So it's topical to talk a little bit about how we've managed this COVID pandemic. It's been a very big challenge. As you all know, it's been a challenging situation across the globe. No one's got it absolutely right. But again, we've managed to minimize the impact of this pandemic on our business. And that's been possible through our strong partnership, our continuous communication with the national and local and regional governments and administrations, our communities, and of course our employees. And although we did have to stop just before the winter, we are busy. We were able to recover that situation, and now the challenge is to work to get our operation back to normal. We have, like much of the mining industry in Argentina, invested heavily in partnership with the governments, both national and regional, to ensure that we play our part in the fight against this very silent and invisible enemy. And we will continue to do so wherever we can. Veladero is an important part of Barrick's portfolio. Making it better and extending its life is a key focus of our South American executive team. But equally important is searching for those additional Veladeros. And one of the objectives that I have and have delivered on now is to revitalize the Barrick exploration capacity focused on the whole Andean region, and specifically the San Juan province and other provinces down the Andean mountains in Argentina. And this describes some of the projects that we are looking at. And again, we have a new leadership. Barrick used to be the leader of mining in this part of the world. And our objective is to regain that position as the leading both explorer and miner of gold and gold copper deposits in South America. And Argentina, of course, is an integral part of that focus. It would be remiss of me if I didn't touch on Pascua Lama. As you would have read recently, Barrick accepted the environmental court's decision to uphold the closure order imposed on the Chilean portion, that's Pascua, of the project last month. Pascua will now be transitioned from care and maintenance to closure, but it remains an important project, and that's both Pascua and Lama, and work has already started in the re-evaluation of this potential, both as a standalone project in the form of Lama in Argentina and as a standalone project in the form of Pascua in Chile, and of course a combination. And also we've got a dedicated team looking at this re-evaluation, and included in that is Veladero and other satellites around Veladero, because the positive component of this opportunity is the infrastructure that's already been installed in the Argentinian side of the project area, and the opportunity to use that infrastructure in bringing to account the deposits that make up the Pascua Lama project, as well as other projects within the region. Ladies and gentlemen, the other thing to finish on my presentation is that, as I started out in the beginning, mining is about partnerships. It's really an industry that is naturally creates a partnership between host countries and capital, the mining companies. You know, the government, politicians, they have a responsibility to shepherd the national assets of a country, both for today and for future generations. And we as mining managers have the responsibility to shepherd or steward our investors' money. And together, we can create a real partnership to unlock value from the mineral endowments of a country. And without a doubt, I'm a geologist by profession, Argentina boasts enormous potential. It's not an easy place to work, but it can be done, as the industry has demonstrated, and more specifically Barrick has demonstrated in how it's developed and been able to continue to operate Veladero. And so with that, I know we are facing particularly challenging times in Argentina on the back of the pandemic, and also the consequential stress in the economy. But mining is an industry in partnership with government that can really make a difference. And I want to finish by saying Barrick is very committed to doing just that. And Barrick is back, committed to hunt those new gold and gold copper opportunities in your country. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'd be delighted to take any questions.
Thanks, Mark, for the presentation. There are some questions for you here. La primera es, ¿cómo avanzaron las posibilidades de incorporar el mineral de Penélope para ser utilizado en Veladero? Which are the possibilities that the company has made in order to add mineral from Penélope to be produced or processed in Veladero mine, Mark?
So the Penélope project, it's a very good question. It's one of the portfolio of ore bodies that were identified for the Pascua-Lama project. It is poorly evaluated, and as we speak, we have a program to more fully drill out the Penélope deposit. And the question is, how much of that deposit is leachable? How much is oxide that you can put through the leach process in Veladero? Otherwise, we need to look at how do we utilize the Lama infrastructure to be able to process that ore body. And recently, we've just finished the initial drilling campaign in that area, and we've been able to draw a section through Penélope, Veladero, Penélope, and up to the Pascua deposit. And we are starting to really understand the geology of that area. We're busy with a 3-dimensional geological model for the region. And I've got lots of hope that we'll be able to deliver not only value on the back of the potential at Penélope, but there are other opportunities too that I'm sure the exploration project will realize.
Thanks, Mark. There is another question here. La pregunta es, ¿cuál ha sido la experiencia de Randgold y de Barrick para combatir el COVID-19 y la experiencia en Veladero? Mark, you worked for several years in West Africa, in Randgold, fighting against some diseases like SARS and other ones. Which is the experience you have taking from Randgold to Barrick as a worldwide company, and specifically that experience applied in Veladero mine?
So there's lots of, we've learned a lot. As you know, I grew up, and as you said, I grew up in Africa, and we deal with pandemics and that sort of thing, whether it's HIV, malaria is a big issue. Ebola, we've been through 3 big pandemics relating to Ebola. We have many tropical diseases that we deal with on an ongoing basis. And Africa at the moment is managing this pandemic probably better than many of the developed countries. I'm sitting in the Democratic Republic of Congo talking to you. And again, Barrick employs 40,000 people around the world. We've been able to operate in all our operations. We had that small interruption in Argentina. And the most important thing is in managing this pandemic is to keep the virus visible, to understand the infection rate, to be able to test. We test all the time, and I'm traveling through Africa. I was in the other side of DRC yesterday. Before that, I was in Tanzania, and we have the ability to test. We have PCR test facilities on our mines in partnership with the governments, and we test regularly. Whenever we move, we test, and we're also able to keep an eye on the potential spread and be able to manage that through isolation But the one thing that the Africans are really good at because of Ebola is that social distancing and hygiene. And that, you know, I would encourage everyone, discipline. You should treat everyone as though they've got COVID, and you should behave like that. But it shouldn't stop you doing your work. And you know, I'm very hopeful that, you know, we will continue to work with the Argentinian government and prove we have a PCR laboratory now up at Veladero, and we've been able to manage that very clearly. And the whole focus in managing this pandemic is you must have the test facilities, and you must screen, and you must follow the global protocol. There's no other way to be able to get through this pandemic at this stage.
Mark, hay otra pregunta, es de parte de Daniel Bosque, de Mining Press. Consulta, fuera de Argentina y de la mina Veladero, ¿qué puede pasar con el precio del oro y el valor de las acciones de Barrick en bolsa, teniendo en cuenta la actualidad de los mercados? Daniel Bosque, who is the editor for Mining Press magazine, asks if not taking into consideration Argentina and Veladero mine, what will happen to the gold ounce and its value, taking consideration and the Barrick share on the stock exchange, taking consideration the nowadays in the markets related to gold, and also with financial with the financial sector, as you were talking in the beginning of the presentation.
Sorry, Calandra, I didn't catch that part of your question. Do you mind repeating it?
Yeah, okay. The question, Mark, is that if you don't take in consideration Argentina and Veladero, what will happen to the gold ounce and its value, and also Barrick shares, taking consideration the financial crisis, also the trade war between China and the United States?
So if I understand your correction properly, you're saying if we don't take into account the Argentinian crisis, but if we just look at the global crisis itself and the trade war, you know, at the end of the day, my philosophy about mining is, you know, I told you the story about gold and definitely the future of gold and the gold price. Gold price has outperformed the currencies since 1970. And so effectively, if you focus on quality, you are always increasing your margin. And you know, fundamentally, Barrick's focus is on employing the best people, owning the best assets. If you do that, you always survive the cyclicality of the industry. And so we're all about high quality and a significant return. And we look to 15% internal real rate of returns. And I am of the view that the industry and government should make sure that we only develop the viable assets and leave the marginal assets in the ground, because one day they will be viable. And so, you know, I've always been able to deliver value for our shareholders through performing in a sustainably profitable way. We do not promote ourselves because the gold price goes up or goes down. But I think right now, Argentina has a challenge, but gold is a natural hedge to a financial crisis. And it's an opportunity for the country and the mining industry to partner together in a win-win basis to deliver opportunities to recover that economy and grow the industry.
Otra pregunta para ti, Mark. ¿cómo observas a San Juan como jurisdicción para inversiones mineras en forma comparativa con otras opciones de la región? Question mark refers how do you see San Juan province as a mining jurisdiction for mining investments, taking consideration with other places or countries in the region from Latin America?
So, you know, I think our relationship with the San Juan government has really helped us recover the partnership that used to be there. You know, we had a period in Barrick's history where we destroyed that relationship, and so it's been my focus to rebuild that relationship and prove not only to the central government and the provincial government, but also our partners and stakeholders within our community and our workforce, that we are committed long-term investors in this province, and also employees and business partners. And I think, you know, Argentina is a very challenging place to operate today because of the restrictions, financial restrictions, the very short-term decisions that are being made by government. And we are engaged with at all levels of government to work to find mutually acceptable solutions that won't put our business at risk. And I think that's I certainly, from my side, know that the provincial government is committed to working with us, and we're committed to working with them to find solutions in this very unsure climate that we're operating in at the moment.
Marc, otra pregunta para ti, es de parte de Flavia Seba del diario Las Comunas. Which will be your budget for exploration this 2021 season in Veladero y los proyectos que tiene la empresa en el Valle del Cura? Which will be your budget for the mining exploration in Veladero and also in the areas and also in the Valle del Cura region, taking into consideration the 2021 drilling season?
So we have our budget this last year, 2020, for the region was around just under $40 million. And again, the way we operate our budgets is it's not for any specific country. It's a regional focus, and that budget will migrate to where we're getting the best results. We spent about $20 million on the El Indio trend this year. We plan to have a similar budget for 2021. But I would point out too is that if our geologists find something, there is no limit to the financial commitment we will make should we make discoveries. So we are early in our refocus in both Argentina, or all three, Argentina, Peru, and Chile. And we've just got a full exploration team now. We've appointed exploration managers for each country. We have an overall leader for our LATAM portfolio. And so we expect that there'll be a lot of geological work this next year, 2021. But we do have some advanced targets, and what I can assure anyone who's listening is if our geologists make discoveries, we are there to support those projects and add additional dollars to the budget. That's the way I run the new business side of Barrick.
Otra pregunta para Marc. La decisión del Tribunal Ambiental de Chile, que confirmó la clausura total y definitiva Pascua Lama, ¿ha cambiado los planes que tenía la compañía para lo que debería ser Lama, es decir, el lado argentino del proyecto? The question comes from Minera magazine. It relates to the jurisdiction, to the sentence of the Chilean court. We decided the total closure of Pascua Lama. If this decision has changed the plans of the company for the Argentinian side of Pascua Lama, it means the Lama deposit.
No, it definitely hasn't changed the focus of the company, and certainly neither has it changed our commitment to really understand the Pascua Lama project. The critical thing here is that we agreed with it. When I took over, we agreed with the Chilean authorities. We talked to the Argentinian authorities, and we said, let's stop the fighting and the threatening of court cases. Let the process run its course. And because the old permit EIA was not relevant, is not relevant today, and it's better to put that behind us and start afresh. And should we be able to prove that these projects are economic, we'll have to start and engage on new permitting in a proper and more responsible way going forward.
Marc, esta última pregunta, el año pasado aquí en la provincia de San Juan comentabas que Veladero era un activo camino a ser Tier 1. La pregunta es si hoy, octubre del 2020, Veladero se ha convertido en Tier 1 dentro del portfolio de Barrick. Marc, last year here in San Juan province, you told that Veladero was on the path or on the road to become a Tier 1 producer in the Barrick portfolio. Now, today, in October 2020, Veladero is still on the path or on the road to become a Tier 1 producer, or is a consolidated Tier 1 producer in the portfolio?
So let me explain to you. When I spoke last year in San Juan, Veladero had a very short life, and it wasn't viable at $1,200 an ounce gold price. Today it has potential. We've got a life of mine that goes to 2030. We have the potential to extend it to 2033, so that's more than 10 years, and it's definitely viable at $1,200 an ounce of gold. So that's a big move forward. What we need to do is get it back up to 500,000 ounces or more a year, and to get the costs down to below, to the lower half, the lower 50% of the industry cost curve, for it to be classified as a Tier 1 asset. We are working hard to do that. We have a big project to bring a power line in from Pascua, Chile, which will reduce the power costs materially. It will also reduce the carbon footprint. And because Chile has, predominantly clean power, and it's relatively inexpensive compared to the very expensive diesel power generation we have today at Veladero. And then, Penelope might well contribute to that. And we have other satellite projects that we're evaluating. So we need to be able to really focus in on ensuring we have a 10-year life at above 500,000 ounces a year, and the costs need to come down to the bottom half of the industry cost curve. At the moment, Veladero is a low-grade, quite high-cost mine, but it still now makes a return at a long-term gold price of $1,200. So the profitability under the current gold price is very attractive.
Muchas gracias, Mark. Hay más preguntas, pero debemos continuar con el seminario. Mark, thank you. There are some more questions, but we have to continue with the seminar. We would like to thank you for your presentation. You were very, very clear, telling that Argentina and Veladero specifically is a strategic mine Barrick portfolio, and also there is a very, very important future for Barrick, for San Juan province, and from Veladero mine beyond 2030. So, Mark, thank you in advance for your presentation, and also want to thank Marcelo Alvarez, Santiago, and Laura and all the team here in Argentina. Mark, thank you in advance.
Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Speak to you next time in San Juan.
Sure.